Can you call the meeting to order? Could we? The recording and/or broadcast of this meeting is being made at the direction of the board, which may capture sounds and images of those attending the meeting. Roll call. Vladimir? Present. Jessica?
Here.
Brian?
Present.
Shally?
Present.
I'm here as well. Let's do the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there anybody who would like to provide comment on the agenda? Seeing no hands, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Vladimir and seconded by Shally. Vladimir? Aye. Jessica?
Hi.
Brian?
Yes.
Shally?
Yes.
I vote yes too. Passes 5-0. We met in closed session prior to this meeting, but no action was taken. There.
Just one quick item, and then I'll save some other comments for the end. But thank you for coming out to graduations on last week, on Wednesday of last week. It was fantastic. We had 7 promotion ceremonies at our elementary schools for the 6th graders. The reports are all went well, and the graduations at Egan and Block, you were there. They also went well. It was great. Great to be able to be back in person and celebrate with our students, our accomplishments, and their families. So, thank you.
Thank you. Consent items. Any board members like to provide comment on the consent calendar? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar? So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Vladimir and seconded by Shally. All in favor? Vladimir?
Aye.
Jessica?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Shally?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Passes 5-0. Employees, request to address the board. Kate, for the last time.
For the last time. Nothing much on the LATA front to report tonight, here to round out the year and wish the board a happy summer. As you know, our classes ended last week, was our last week of school, and our teachers were working hard to wrap up their classes and say goodbye to their students. Many of our teachers are already off on summer vacation, recharging for the fall. Although we do have some teachers who are working during the summer school program, which I believe kicked off today, and they will stay in and relaxing throughout and later on. LATA is looking forward to tonight's updates and to reconvening fresh in the fall. So that's it. Thank you. It's been a great year.
To provide public comment on agenda items, speaker cards are available if it's submitted to the superintendent. Speaker cards will not be accepted once public comment begins. Your name will be announced when it's your turn to speak. This time is now reserved for members of the public and employees to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. The board is not permitted to discuss or take action on non-agendized items except to instruct the superintendent to review the matter further, report back to the board in a subsequent meeting, or place the matter on a future agenda. The board may make a brief comment or ask clarifying questions. Is there any request to address the board on non-agendized items? Jessica, anybody there want to address the board on non-agendized items? No? Okay, seeing none, we move on. Action items. Local indicators for the California dashboard. This is on.
All right, I would love to just present from up here tonight so I can get out of my chair. We're back for the annual required local metric dashboard update. As a reminder, the dashboard is now several years old. The goal is to make accountability really transparent for parents through a variety of color-coded systems and what have you. And if you log in right now, as Vladimir recently found out, the most recent data is from 2021. We'll be updating data in October, but really most of what is existing is our local indicators that we'll be talking about tonight. So you may remember that this is a strange yet required compliance activity that we have to go through each year. And so we complete each of the options, one option for each of the metrics. That's already been done. Tonight, we're reporting to you, and then somewhere between August and October, it will be updated. All of our metrics report at the district level. Under the state indicators, these come out from the state and will be automatically uploaded to the dashboard, but our local indicators, as those 5 areas, are what we're reporting out on this evening. And as a reminder, we are reporting on process and not actually meeting growth measurements. That's what this system is designed for, is did we go through the process to review each of those local indicators. So we'll look at our performance for this current year. Have we met the basic conditions at each of our schools? We absolutely have, and we have evidence of that through our yearly school and accountability report cards. Priority 2 is around our implementation of state standards. This is the rating scale that we use for a self-reflected tool. And so if we look at to what degree are we implementing state standards, you can look across the board there. Oh, I'm sorry, this is around providing professional development in these areas. So you can really see where the bulk of our professional development focus has been across those different measures. The next one is about access to instructional materials for teachers and families. Of course, NGSS is a little lower. You just adopted our K-5 NGSS curriculum at our last board meeting, so that next year will go up to very likely a 4 will be in full implementation. The next one is around what type of practices, policies, and programs do we have to support teachers and their professional development to grow in instructional delivery. We feel very confident that we have lots of great practices in place and a system in place to support our teachers in their growth. Priority 3 is all around parent engagement. So I'll give you a moment to just read through these pieces. And you know that bullet 3 there is really a lot of the work that we will be engaged in once we get into our anti-bias work, our culturally responsive pedagogy work, to make some gains in that particular area. I believe when I compared last year to this year, we bumped up a notch in that second one. We have a portion of our population that we've been trying to reach more and engage more, and Lola Padilla has really been a great support for our schools and families this year to have broader access to many of our families across our school sites. This is around partnering with parents around student outcomes. The ability to provide input on decision making. You know, we do a lot of district-wide surveying. We have our site-based meetings and surveying available to families. And again, we continue to work on broader input. I think we've done a great job this past year with Lola's help on making sure that our underrepresented families have access to things. And I think the next step is more input into our programs and opportunities for students on campus. Priority 6 is our school climate survey that we call it our SEL survey, social emotional learning survey, that we give to all of our students in grades 3 through 8. This year we use a county survey. We've used that same survey for several years. This year they actually reduced the number of items on that survey, which is why that middle question was not asked. I think it was in response to the pandemic and just knowing that teachers were stretched for time this year. So they limited the number of items on that survey this year. It remains fairly steady across the board. And I do believe that question will come back next year. And lastly, priority 7 talks about access to a broad course of study. And we have lots of evidence that all of our students, each and every one of them, has access to a broad course of study, and that's how it's defined over on the right there. We look at all of these different measures to make sure that our students are fully included and have that broad area of study throughout their day. So again, those will be uploaded at some point, August to October this school year, or of the next school year. So they will be available to the public. And a narrative goes along with those once that opens on the dashboard website. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about our local metrics.
If you'd like to comment on these items, please submit a speaker card to superintendent or to Jessica. Any questions on the presentation? Seeing no one submitting speaker cards, any comments on the dashboard? That's correct.
Was good, was great, actually. I'm particularly pleased with priority 2, which is the implementation of state standards, but the part that has to do with professional development.
Absolutely.
I think it's really great. The one little thing there that's we could probably look at a little bit more is 1/3 of the students surveyed say that they don't participate actively.
Oh, yeah, this is a big problem. Yep, and it's been much lower than we would like. This is feedback we got several years ago from Principals Exchange around our underrepresented students, and it is.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is
It's
hard.
hard.
Yeah, we would like to see.
But
a much
overall, I
higher
think it's
number. Yep. Excellent.
Number 2, don't move. 2022-23 local control funding formula budget overview for parents.
Yes, so again, we're back last week. We did our required public hearings. You'll remember that the LCAP packet has those 5 pieces. This agenda item is specifically on the budget overview for parents. And the whole point of it is to provide greater transparency to our parent community so they understand Randy's lengthy and beautiful budget in a real finite way. And that it assures that we're highlighting how we're increasing or improving services for our high needs or unduplicated students. You saw this last round. And tonight, wanted to let you know that our draft has been available online. We did have our public hearing last week, and tonight I ask that you consider adopting our budget overview for parents.
Seeing no action for public comment. Any questions, Sandra, on the LCFF overview for parents?
The state
Template,
template
yes.
Violates every single rule for presenting financial information has ever been considered. Can we include Randy's infographic that he has in his second, which is just 1 page? I mean, we can put it up on the website next to it.
Yeah, we could do that.
And it's really
Cleaner version of,
it's this,
our infographic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could absolutely
and that's I
add that
think
to our website.
probably much better than that.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments? Then I need a motion to approve the.
So moved.
Moved by Vladimir, seconded by Shelley, to approve the 2023 local control funding formula budget over parents. Vladimir,
Aye.
Jessica,
Aye.
Brian. Aye. Shelley.
Aye.
I vote yes as well. Passes my vote. Sandra, the 2022-23 local patrol accountability.
They all look so similar. They're just a little bit different. All right. Again, tonight we're talking about the LCAP template, the LCAP itself, along with those new action tables that are required to be included. We had our public hearing last week where we went through the 5 different areas of our LCAP. We've shared all of our goals and actions. We've had lots of educational partner engagement. We had our public hearing last week, and so tonight I ask that you consider adopting our LCAP.
No demand for public comment. Is there any questions from this? On the get a motion to approve the LCAP.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Vladimir, approved by, second by Shelley. Vladimir.
Aye.
Jessica.
Aye.
Brian. Aye. Shelley.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Passes 5-0.
I think Randy is next with his budget.
The 2022-23 district budget, Mr. Campbell.
Yeah, so this is sort of ditto to what Sandra just did. We had this at your last board meeting for a public hearing. Tonight, we have it scheduled for adoption. Summary slides at the beginning here that just reiterate the financials you saw last week. Very high level, the revenues, expenses, and the fund balances for all of our different funds. These 2 slides. Take action tonight. We're recommending you adopt the budget as presented. It meets all of the state requirements. That's the goals and objectives in the LCAP. And there's an appendix with all the slides from the previous meeting.
See no request for public comment. Any questions on the budget? Comments? I get a motion to approve the budget for the 20. Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the 2022-23 district budget from Vladimir and seconded by Shelley.
Aye.
Jessica.
Aye.
Aye. Shelley.
Aye.
I vote aye as well, so passes 5-0. Thank you. Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, ELOP plan. That's the McDonald.
I feel like there's a little show happening here. All right, next up this evening. Thank you, Marcy. She's staying right on top of things. I'm here tonight to present to you our expanded learning opportunities program plan. Again, this was a template provided by the state with guidelines for you to consider as we expand our program. So you've seen this slide before about the many ways that the state has decided that schools should be helping families and students within our community. Specifically tonight, we're really talking about our TK program for the coming year and the requirement that we must serve at least 50% of our unduplicated pupils in the coming school year in an expanded 9-hour school day. So several months ago, back in March, I came to just give you an update on where we were in process and wanted to let you know that all of our next steps that I came to you in March have been completed. We know that for the coming year, TK will be housed at Santa Rita, Almond, Loyola, and Oak. Our 3 child care partners on those sites, the YMCA, the Champions, and Children's House, will be working with us to help offer this extended or expanded day. And we've hired the fabulous Laura Wiley as our universal pre-K and ELOP coordinator for next year in the CNI office. So those pieces have been put in place since we last met. We know that there are requirements beyond TK, and much of the work really will be happening next year on what that will look like for our other grade levels and across our schools. And that there is a grace period for next year beyond TK. So the template that you received, you probably noticed the 11 prompts for programming. I think I can't remember because I filled out 2 different programs. Yeah, I'm going to take that back. 11 prompts for programming for this one to talk about our TK program and what the summer experience will look like for students, and then the required sample schedules for both our TK program and the expanded programs. This is a very bare bones, I would say, plan put in place, knowing that there is so much work to be done around what do we really want our plan to look like once we have multiple grades at multiple school sites, and what do we want to own and who might we partner with. It's a big piece of work that needs to come. But I hope that you did have an opportunity to read through the partnership and what that looks like, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone wants to submit a speaker card, please do so now. Any questions for Ms. McGonigal on the plan?
Do you have any sense of what percentage of the how many students will be serving next year at TK the extended?
So, well, I don't know yet how many we will be serving unduplicated. I think we're at maybe 5 to 6 students who qualify for that qualification. But we're still, we have surveyed all of the families to understand whether or not they hit the free and reduced lunch criteria. And then Laura has been working with Sandra Bush in Randy's office and the 3 after-school partners, connecting families who just indicated that they would like to have extended care. So it's available. Each of the partners agreed that they can take the full capacity of the class if that's warranted. So they're right in the process now of signing up for after-school care. So we'll be able to come to you in the start of the school year with an update.
So is this sort of, am I thinking about it right, if it's sort of like a express lane into the after, I mean, we have it in
Yes.
aftercare partners, but this is sort of a separate
It is an
parallel.
express
guaranteed
lane
express
to it.
lane
Yes,
into-
absolutely. Which has been a challenge for a lot of our TK families in the past, especially if they're not at their home school sites. Some of our other childcare providers are more interested in providing a spot for a student that they know is going to stay at that school site. So we've worked with them, and they've been fabulous to kind of guarantee that they have up to 25 spots or up to 24 spots for those TK students, and doing what they need to meet the ratio, the 10-to-1 staffing ratio, and working through those details.
Looking through the ELOP requirements, both for next year and the following years, it's seemed to be like this sort of odd mix of requirements of offer versus serve. So,
Agree.
yeah.
Yeah. It is a very strange beast of a program.
So on the question of offer versus serve, is this offered to parents of non-duplicated students as well?
Yes, so a spot in aftercare for a 9-hour day was offered to all incoming TK students. And we will cover the cost of those who qualify for free and reduced lunch. But when you go back to, where is that here, this last red pointer, this piece that we must serve at least 50% of unduplicated TK pupils. There are, like Brian was saying, a lot of caveats to that, like if you can, if there is interest, there's a lot of ifs associated with the whole thing.
Any questions? Seeing no public comments. Can I get a motion to approve this?
So
Moved by Vladimir, seconded by Shelley. All in favor? Aye. Jessica?
Aye.
I'm saying aye as well, so that's this.
Thank you.
Sandra's near double digits in the plan count this
I
year.
know. She seems so enthusiastic about them all.
Wait till you see the UPK one, Steve.
Universal
Yeah.
kindergarten plan.
All right, so tonight we're here to talk about the planning template for universal pre-K, which is really TK for us in LASD. Again, this special slide here, we're looking at the universal pre-K. Here are the requirements, and the red X indicates that we do not offer, nor do we have to offer those programs. So we are really looking at community-based early learning and care programs. And this is where the UPK and the ELOP merge. So that's what this slide is about, that we are required to offer that expanded day in TK. And so we will partner with our community-based early learning or care programs. So the UPK template that was provided by the state has 5 areas, and you can see them there. Again, I've been working with Laura Wiley, who's been great, working with our 4 TK teachers for next year, really thinking more long-term of as our TK students get younger and younger, what do we want our program to look like? So you've seen some pieces of that. We were asked to do some projected enrollments, both around staffing, facility needs, and student enrollment. So you can see some best guesses there. And then looking at highlights of the plan. So focus area A, we know that we already have a full day TK program, and we certainly want that to continue. We've now, a new requirement is that we have to have TK as part of our LCAP. So I actually included it. It made the most sense to include it in Goal 1, Action 1 under that conditions for learning. That talks about the facilities, the staffing, all of the curriculum, that we have that in place for an extended TK program. So that has been included in our new LCAP. Focus area B is, I've already talked about that we had surveyed our incoming TK families to make sure that we understood their needs and partnering with our on-site centers. Focus area C, we're actually working. SCOE is just in the process of trying to get a grant for a teacher residency program, and they're looking to partner with districts in our county to fill those tough to fill positions. So we've expressed some initial interest and do hope that they'll be able to create an extra pipeline for us, not only for TK teachers, but perhaps for special education or STEM field teachers as well, which is great. We also know that some of the professional learning we need to do moving forward, especially as our staff might migrate down to TK from other areas, that we will need to do some professional learning around early childhood education, the preschool foundations, and any additional or new early assessments that are appropriate for those 4-year-old students. Focus area D, we meaning Laura and the teachers, have really been looking at social and emotional curriculum, new assessments to make sure we have a good understanding of students when they come into us and how they feed into our program, and are we ensuring that students who will leave our TK program are meeting the beginning of kinder assessment benchmarks that we really want all kinder students. So that's some work that will be happening this coming year, which is exciting. And we know that all of our curriculum, and especially in TK, can be modified or accommodated to make sure that we are inclusive of all students who want a place in our general education. Focus area E, working with Randy and his team around facilities, services, and operations, and soon to be Eric and his team, to make sure that we have the ongoing facility needs as the program expands. And Randy let me know that already TK has been a part of our facilities master planning, and that was a requirement within the plan there. So I am happy to answer any questions. I do not believe this one has to be adopted. It is, okay. Consideration, yep, thank you.
If anyone would like to comment, please submit a speaker card. Any questions on the presentation?
Questions?
Yep.
Looking through the details, it looks like there's sort of an expectation that as TK grows to the full year, that uptake will also increase.
That what will?
The uptake, so we offer TK right now, but not every student who's eligible for TK enrolls for
Correct.
a whole variety of reasons.
Yep,
And so I just want to sort of note and ask if I'm reading this right, that there's sort of this general expectation that once every 4-year-old is eligible, that it will become more of a normal thing. We'll essentially be drawing down from the other child care options.
right. And so that has been a big part of this partnership, community schools, as they're calling it, that we are working with preschools, we are working with folks who might offer a junior kindergarten or some kind of program, with ultimately the goal that every 4-year-old is in or has access to and is enrolled in some kind of learning experience. We would hope that our program feels like a necessary part of our K-8 experience, right? That we would want folks to come to us for TK. Well, will that happen? Hard to say. Hard to say.
And actually, so the follow-on question was, do we expect any changes to our kindergarten, first grade, second grade curricula or expectations once all of our children are joining us in TK rather than in kindergarten?
Yeah, so they talk about this P3 continuum, so preschool through 3rd grade. I think it's looking at, once we kind of finish and have that full group in TK, I wouldn't say our curriculum necessarily is going to change, but are there some experiences? I don't believe our benchmarks would change because those are normed well outside of us. But I think it's making sure that our TK3 experience feels continuous for students and families. I think of the big focus on play in TK and the continuum of what play can look like. I think many of our early grades could think about some of the experiences for students in a different way by using the lens of play. Play can be very academic, but I think it provides just a different way for teachers and staff to think about what that experience for students looks like.
And it's a fair question to ask. Once we have expanded experiences for all of our 4-year-olds, does that affect the performance outcomes?
Sure.
At K1, 2, and 3, right? Or does it tighten the continuum on which kids fall?
Right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion?
Whoa, do we have comments?
No comments.
No, I mean, work.
No.
I'm glad you mentioned play, because our favorite nation, Finland,
Yeah.
doesn't start academic work until 7-year-olds, so that's 1st grade, I believe. And I noticed in the whatchamacallit, this thing
Plan.
here,
The plan.
the outline, that only one of the items there mentioned play. I hope that we don't try to force our 4-year-olds to into academic work sooner than they are ready. I'm just a little bit slightly sensitive, that's all.
I think it's about what it looks like, Vladimir, because I certainly don't want, 4-year-olds sitting down with packets of worksheet types of things. But I would hope, going back to our local indicators around students participating, talking in class, I think we have an opportunity to set the expectation and lay the foundation for students to be able to have greater vocabulary, right? These are things that you can build through play and conversation. And if we lay that foundation, I would hope that number, we just see it organically grow And I think that that's something that we could, if we do that really well at TK, how do we move those practices forward in the PK3 continuum?
One of the reasons that I'm a bit sensitive to that is that the only TK class, only kindergarten class I observed, there seemed to be a lot of emphasis on sitting still as opposed to, you know, learning and stuff like that. And I know that, again, in Finland, I believe it's the case that unstructured play plays a big part.
Right.
So I just hope that that's also.
Just a quick question. I think we all know that TK has a very positive impact on educational outcomes. So I'd like to see if we're going to track this to see what the impact is of our TK program as the kids go. Are we planning on tracking that data? Or?
Yeah, so Laura and the teachers are looking at what could be some solid metrics that we look at within TK and how do they feed into.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And I just know
Yes, and it hasn't been something we've done until this point. I often ask myself, like, I wonder if this student attended our TK, right? And it takes some effort to like click in and figure it out. So yes, we need to do a better job of painting that picture.
Now,
I do have a question. I don't know if that's being annoying. TK, I know we are required to offer it. For parents required to take advantage of it.
TK and kinder are both non-compulsory.
That's what I thought. Just wanted to confirm.
Yep.
So that will be in place.
Correct.
Just want to make sure that. Thanks. Any other comments, questions? I get a motion to approve the universal pre-kindergarten plan as presented.
so
I will say.
So, moved by Vladimir, seconded by Shally. Can I get a vote?
I,
Jessica,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Shally.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Yes, I vote.
Very much.
Measure N, Citizens Oversight Committee annual report. Mr. King.
Thank you. Our bond oversight committee, citizens, reviewed the audit report that they received at their March meeting. And it's an audit on the last fiscal year, 2021. And they agreed with the findings of the audit report. They agree that the expenditures, bond proceed expenditures remain in line with what our measure and ballot measure required. And so they're reporting that to you tonight. And all that we're asking for you to do is accept their report, which is in the packet. So it's next time, and I'm going to turn it back to you.
Any questions on the Oversight Committee report? No comments? Seeing no one requesting to address the board on that topic. Okay, get a motion to approve the annual report as presented.
so moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Vladimir, seconded by Shally. Vladimir,
I,
Jessica,
Aye.
Brent,
Aye.
Shally.
Aye.
I vote yes as well. So passes by vote. Thank you. Thank you to the committee.
All right, we're going to move on to the next item. And this item is an action item. We will be asking you to approve the contract with Gelfand Partners for schematic design work for the 10th site. Before you take action, we have Lisa Gelfand here tonight to present information about schematic design. The board requested to know a little bit more about what schematic design means and entails. And so Lisa's going to give you a brief overview on that. Assuming, Lisa, you can hear me?
Yes.
Hear you? Not yet, Lisa.
That's it. Lisa, I think Randy turned it over to you. You want to present?
Okay, are we ready?
We're good.
Okay, good. Well, thank you. And this is actually exciting because I think we're going to be making some fairly concrete steps toward developing the site. So the first thing I wanted to do is just situate where schematic design fits in the development process. And the top bar there, you can see in the chart, we've got the site, and you've been through a process with CDE, the California Department of Education, to state that it's appropriate. Your educational goals were part of selecting that site. And in this case, so were Mountain View's civic goals, and then we also had some developer transfers. So this is a place where a lot of things have come together. The next step is to do this environmental impact report. And that impact is basically something that is reporting on what we're going to do there. And so that's a combination of what we need to put into the site and what's going to happen. What are the influences that the site will have outwardly on the rest of the community? And that's where we start to need to quantify things, to talk about what are we demolishing, how deep are we digging, what are our loads needed for water, for power, for sewer, all those kinds of things. And then ongoing in the operation of the school, there will be potentially light pollution, noise coming and going, all of the just activities of the school. That all goes into this environmental impact report. And that report will include some mitigations, some of the things that we're going to do to reduce some kinds of impacts. It all goes into schematic design. But I put a double-headed arrow there because it's going back from schematic design into the report. Like, how much power do we need? How much water do we need? All those kinds of things are parts of the demands of the design. And there's also a preliminary review that the California Department of Education will do based on our layout. There's a pre-application meeting that we'll have with DSA based on the code, fire, life safety, and all that stuff. We have a joint use component with Mountain View Park and Rec, and we also have coordination with our other neighbors. So all of that stuff comes in and out of the schematic design and comes back and forth between the environmental impact report. At the end of the schematic design, and what we're proposing is a little bit truncated in this case because we still don't have a specific program for the school. So we're trying not to commit the district to anything that where decisions haven't been made. But that just continues on into design development and to the rest of the project. So if we go forward, those agencies are the first sort of part of the entitlements, and it's basically from the program side, CDE, OPSC, and SAB. Those are all the alphabets that have to do with it. Are you going to get some money from the state? In other words, will you have growth or needs? And then DSA is their state architect. That's your fire, life safety, and access. But they like to keep the fire marshal local. So that's probably the only local entity that actually can tell you what to do, other than your partners who can tell you what they would like to see you do. So for CEQA, this is the environmental impact. You can see the sort of general kinds of just physical impacts that might happen to this site, most of which are just going to be positive when we get rid of the paving and the big box store and the uses that are already there. But we still do have to get rid of all that material somewhere. CDE will look at the site, which they've already done. Randy's already been in touch with them. There will be a summary plan, and then we normally give them. It's actually not normally. It's specified by CDE what they want, and that's kind of a list of what are the things that are in schematic design. So on the right, if you just look down that list, those are the things that CDE will require. And the last piece is the coordination with educational specifications. And that's the one that we probably won't finish until design development or until the district makes a decision about the grade levels that will be served. Okay. For DSA, they're going to want to know, you saw that I have a courtyard scheme going on. I think that we can do it with one elevator. I might have an argument with DSA. They might say that that's too far for a kid in a wheelchair. So, so that's the kind of thing that we have our pre-application meeting for. Okay, and here we are. The one part to remember is that it's not just the buildings. We're doing a campus design, and so there's the joint use. I separated the sort of three sets of services because they actually may end up going off in different schedules. We've got our joint use open space that your agreement with the city called for a particular delivery date before the school would be done. And so some component of it might go ahead. There's the core campus, which I'm showing here, but there's also campus infrastructure, like where do we hook up to PG&E? Where do we hook up to both the water source and to sewer lines out? Okay. And one of the reasons I'm also separating this is I've got urban design consulting engineers, Verdi Design. These are all my sub-consultants. These guys are the ones that will be involved with the joint use open space. Verdi actually does a lot of other work for Mountain View, sort of a sport specialist. And in this area, this is where we're going to make decisions about the sport fields, the kinds of facilities. And then the closer and closer that we get to the school site, the more it's really about you and play and TK and all the other kinds of facilities that are really specific to the children during the school day. Our core campus, I've designed so that the preliminary plan gives it the potential to be either 600 or 900 students. For our environmental impact, we will use the 900 student K8 or TK8 version as the one that will be approved, so that anything within that doesn't need to be resubmitted. So it could be 600 students, it could be TK through 3, it could be 6-8. All those options would be covered by the approvals that we are trying to get right now. And for this one, we've got structural engineers, mechanical, electrical planning, and then Sailor is a cost estimator and also disabled veteran business enterprise, so that if you do look for state funding, the DVBE box will be checked and there will be no problem in eligibility. So infrastructure is a little bit bigger than just the paths and parking and things like that on the site, but just how does that connect across to areas like the coordination we want to do with the Mountain View Park, and also with the bike and pedestrian network in the area. I think we've shown before just how the edge between the school site and the remaining shopping center can actually use parking as a buffer to help create a safe bike and pedestrian route. So those are the kinds of things that we'll look for, is just how do we handle the edges that are in a fairly busy area. And this schedule you have seen before, and it is for the whole development, and gets us way out there to whatever is 26, I think, to go to school. And yeah, there we are. But another thing to look at is that the yellow bar is the school design and construction, and the green bar is the joint use facilities. And I am really tracking those separately so that decisions can be made to either have the joint use facility delivered sooner or on the same schedule. That will just be up to the district. And we're working on our models, and playing with our toys. And pretty excited to get going, really. So
Thanks,
we got
Lisa.
questions?
Questions from the board on the presentation?
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa. A couple of questions. One, just so I'm clear, this CEQA process is not going to include the Mountain View Park. Is that right?
That's right.
So they're gonna have to do their own CEQA. I don't know if parks require CEQA, but if they do, they'll have to do their own process for that.
They will. We're coordinating with it. They've said that in the past, none of their parks have been negative declarations. In other words, they don't need to go through the whole process.
Okay. Also, you mentioned as you were going through the slides that the educational specifications is something that's sort of open, waiting on our decisions. So I was wondering, is there a particular deadline where we need to make that decision in order to meet these timelines that you have in the document here?
On the schedule, I sort of have you doing it toward the end of, or, in the fall sometime. And it's not like we'll have a long lead time at that time, because for the master plan, we've actually already got, the basis of educational specifications for all the grade levels that the district offers. So the master plan included a K-8 and how many flex rooms and how many, so basically the layouts are based on the master plan and on work that's already been done. So at this point, we're really, I think, pretty comfortable that whatever direction that the board goes in, we're going to be able to get that to work here.
Basically, it's a box that the state is looking for, but it's not going to affect. No work is going to be held up on it.
No work will be held up. I think, I actually am sort of pleased with the idea that we have to be very deliberate about making this a flexible site. But, with the amount of school sites that I've gone on that used to be junior highs and are now high schools, or used to be high schools and are now, junior highs or elementary schools and they're now junior. That's what happens to school sites. This is your asset. And the reality is that most districts will change programs sometime over the life of one of their school sites. So what we're doing right now is trying to make sure that this site is going to work, not only for whatever you initially decide, but for however the programs develop.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Lisa, I have a question, and this could be just, well, anyway. On the, let's go to this schematic design 02 slide. On the left-hand side there, where there is fire access, there used to be a notch for parking. Has that been resolved, or is this just, you just do the diagram there? It's easier to draw straight lines.
Well, no, you can actually see a little green triangle beyond that in case of disaster, and we don't get it. But I think this has been submitted to Federal Realty, and their civil engineer has already taken a look at it, and their civil engineer has come up with a variety of parking layouts. And we're actually trying to pull out and say, you guys do your own parking layout. What we want is to straighten this out, have a buffer, so that basically kid bicyclists using this path are not exposed to parking lot traffic.
Okay,
So yeah, they're working on it.
okay, that's fine.
Any comments, questions? I just have one question. You said we have to estimate construction costs in this report that you're pulling together. Are you basing that on is it gonna have a range based on a construction type we go for, or is it, how is that gonna be based?
We will be estimating the construction costs. I think one of the notes was that we would do an allowance for interiors of classrooms like labs or kindergartens or things like that, because we won't have that, figured out right away. But I think that, again, if the district wants to go after some of the state funding that's available, we do need to have a construction cost.
And it would, I guess one of the things that had come up in the past as we talked about construction was type of construction.
Yeah.
Whether it was some of it's pre-configured somewhere else and brought and assembled versus ground up. And that was, I think, where I was headed, is are you leaning in a direction yet, or is that still up for conversation, or where are we at on that?
Well, okay, the classroom wings are probably the places where there is a sort of potential for something prefabricated. The specialty classrooms, gyms, kindergartens, library, auditorium, these are not really appropriate. Now, what I've done to make this really fit here is a double loaded, or in other words, it's got an interior corridor. You're used to having all these exterior balconies and things. And so the classroom wing that's between us and the parking lot is one of those. It's got an outside balcony. And that one could easily be a modular building. They're all over the place. The one that's got the interior corridor would be difficult. Now, I am also looking at a new kind of wood construction called mass timber. And, I went ahead and applied for a grant from Woodworks, which is promoting this. The state architect has fallen in love with it. All the architects have fallen in love with it. And it's a way to reduce your carbon impact and to help basically make wood buildings when you might otherwise have to make concrete. So the floor system could be a wood system. And we actually should hear within a couple of weeks, there's a $500,000 grant available that I hope we win. And if we do, then that would be another system that's prefabricated, offsite, brought in, speeds up construction and lowers your carbon impact.
Any other comments, questions?
Lisa, just one quick question. If you look at the schematic design there, on the right-hand side, there are two ochre buildings with trees in front of it. What are those buildings?
So on the right-hand side, on basically on California, the facing the parking lot is sort of the admin building. The sort of pair of classrooms I've got shown are flex rooms. And then on the corner is the library.
So the flex, it seems to me that the flex rooms there have an area in front of them that abuts the street.
Yes.
And I was wondering, and that's not the case for other buildings. I was just wondering what was intended there.
I think just that it's a noisy street, and just having a little bit of a setback there would keep things quieter. This is the ground floor. There's a second floor on top of that, and it extends across the entire, all three buildings and ties them all together. So that's so it is it's fairly dense.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Any other questions, comments? So this is an action item, which means I'll need a motion. Thank you. A motion to approve. Thank you, Vladimir.
I will second.
Motion from Vladimir in a second from Shelley. Vladimir.
Aye.
Jessica?
Aye.
Right. Aye. Shelley?
Aye.
I actually voted aye, so passes 5-0. Technology purchasing, and thank you, Lisa, for joining us. Appreciate
Okay,
it.
great, thank you.
Technology purchasing plans.
Right, really, I think this could be either me or Randy or Val for that matter, but we wanted to come tonight because it's been a big topic of conversation. So we are here to talk about how we are going to provide more equitable access to our students and staff at all of our sites and all of our grade levels, access to technology. And we know a lot of this has been in conversation with the PTA to relieve that fundraising burden of having to raise enough money to buy some technology for our students and staff. So that's a little bit of the why. I always think it's important to talk about what is it we really want for students. Why do we place importance around technology? And of course, we want students to have awareness that it's a tool to use, but we certainly want them to have skills, and we want them not only to be consumers of technology, but to be creators and use technology to do good for the world. We certainly want them to be positive digital citizens and smart media consumers, because you know that much of the world could benefit from having these skills right now. So working with Bao and the team of technology specialists across all of the school sites, Bao did a kind of a status update. Where are we currently across the schools? So we had a sense of what does every grade level device ratio look like across every school, across every grade level, and then what is it we really want, and that will support our program. After all of that, this is really where we've landed, and this is what Randy and Bao have been planning for. So when we think of our real primary grades, so our TK and our K and first grades, we're really looking to be at 2-to-1 iPads in those grades. We know that sometimes teachers may want 1-to-1 access, so having a cart available for that 1-to-1 access will be really helpful. I know when our computer science teachers are out, it's nice to have 1-to-1 access, but we don't need it all of the time. With our new science curriculum, there's a little more engagement with some technology to be used at different times. So we believe that 2-to-1 iPad access is really terrific, TK through first grade. When we hit 2nd through 6th grade, 1-to-1 Chromebooks is really where we need to be and where we want to be. When we think of the broader school over here, we are, I believe, across all schools now, just about phased out of the existing computer labs. Some of our schools are creating spaces, student kind of creation spaces, but really phasing out that discrete computer lab model. But we know that in other spaces like the library, that students need access to some technology to do searches or research or to check out books. So they will have Chrome boxes, which is a new thing that I hadn't heard of before. That Bao said is a really nice and affordable model for students to use in our elementary libraries.
New to you.
Oh, yeah, it was totally new to me. I had
No,
never
it's
heard of
like,
a
they've been
Chromebox.
around.
I know they've been around. I did my research, but yeah, it was definitely new to me, and we don't have any, I believe. So this is the plan for TK6 moving forward. When we look at junior high, we know their needs are a little bit different. We certainly want to get to the 1-to-1 Chromebooks for students. We know that having an iMac lab is still a necessity at our junior highs. We have some specialized elective courses that really need that level of technology, in addition to a MacBook cart for teachers to use either for electives and beyond as needed. Students are doing a little bit more robust searching and what have you, so the libraries will have 3 iMacs instead of the Chrome boxes at the junior high. And then our PE teachers also use technology in their classes, so having 15 iPads to use with students through PE is something that the teachers have asked for. So that's our plan.
So is that per school?
Per school, yep, per school. And it's really a lot of, if you're learning a game or a skill that you student, you're going to perform that skill and I'm going to record you so you can look to see, how you look shooting a free throw. Are you following the proper technique? That's really what they're mostly used for. Staff devices, we will continue with the MacBook Pro, an external backup drive for teachers, principals, our office staff and librarians. We learned through the pandemic that having a portable device is really helpful. Many of our secretaries had giant desktops, and when we asked them to go home and do their work, it was a challenge. So just keeping up with more of a laptop model, they can still have a keyboard and a monitor and what have you. That's true for our district office staff here. And then we know that oftentimes our special education staff might need some more specialized equipment, and that really runs outside of this technology plan, and that's often based on student need to be able to support our students. Costs, I know that Randy and Val have been working on what these costs look like. This is our next year cost only. I'll just let you read through that. I know Randy had budgeted out about $500,000 and it's running just over that. And then Val is working on placing that order for next year. We know supply chain has slowed a lot of technology access down. And some of the work we really want to do next year is exploring how can we, instead of relying on in-classroom carts, consider a checkout model for students. What grade does that start at? Is that second grade? Is that third grade? Is that fourth grade? Especially when we get to the junior high school. We have for 450 students at Egan, I know I'm not exact in my numbers, we have close to 600 devices because they are in carts in a classroom. So in this particular period, I have 30 students, but in my next period, I only have 18 students. So each room is stocked to the maximum, which makes our device need much greater than it really needs to be. So if we can move to more of a one-to-one checkout model and students travel with their Chromebook, it will just help us reduce overall needs. And of course, we'll have some extras and charging ports and all of those things that would come with that, but that's something that we're looking into. We're just here to answer some questions you might have.
So, can I ask just a quick question? Randy, is that the 521 for this next year? Have you looked at what that looks like for 23, 24, 24, 25?
So we don't have enough information yet
Okay.
to project past next year.
This is my technological ignorance question, but I'm just curious why do we choose to do iPads as opposed to Android tablets? Since we have Chromebooks?
Yep, we looked at the Chromebook tablet that can serve us both, and they've actually been using it in the computer science
Right.
with the primary grades. Our teachers and students are versed in iPad, and it seems like the transition has been challenging to move to a Chromebook based, because they're really app based in primary grades, and I don't understand the details, but there was a big, like, we want to keep
Okay.
with the iPads. And I think now the cost differential is not
It's not
humongous
too bad.
for this style of iPad that we're buying. I tried.
Any questions, comments?
Yeah, do we have any sense, especially in the junior highs, about how many of our students struggle with not having the technology at home? I mean, to your point about the sort of checkout and that it goes with them, I know they've been doing that in high school essentially
Right.
for a few years now. So I'm wondering if we have any sense of that.
I'm sure we do have a sense. Do I know what the sense is? Because during the pandemic, we checked out,
Right.
right? Egan, I know in particular, checked out many Chromebooks, but across all of our schools to make
Right.
sure, along with the hotspots, that students were able to log in. at
So did we
home.
get all those, did we get all those Chromebooks back?
They've been working on it, yes. I
Yeah.
think we got most of them back.
Mostly. Right.
I'm certain we did not get all of them back.
Well, but I wonder with that, with this whole shift
Right,
to potentially hybrid and everything else, whether that should be factoring in as well, or
Right.
maybe the one-to-one obviates the need for that.
Right.
That's the solution. Because
Right.
everybody has their same computer all
right,
the time.
exactly,
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
At junior high.
for sure. Excellent, thank you. Second show is done.
Site improvement, Garden Willis Live Oak Tree.
Yes, you have as an action item tonight, a proposal from the PTA as a gift from the sixth grade class from not this year, but the prior year to the school of a shade tree, a live oak tree. And a commemorative plaque. The tree would actually not be installed right now until the fall. I guess maybe more appropriate word. Especially town of Los Altos Hills is suggesting that you can't plant a tree now because of some conditions. Late fall, we plant a tree on the site, so we're following their guidance. And it's here for you tonight for your approval.
Great, thank you. Any questions on this or comments?
So again, ignorance, this time our board of ignorance. I'm just curious why we have to, like, why can't our schools just go and plant a tree? Like, why does it have to come to the board? Is it like a city ordinance or something, or?
No, so this is what's called a site improvement, right? And so we have a history and a want to continue to bring major site improvements to the board. So you want to know what they are. If we're adding a new building or a new play structure, we will bring those kind of things. Playgrounds will often come to the board. So you're aware of them. You're not surprised when you go to the site. And this is we don't often plant trees. We take care of the existing trees. So, and this one has a commemorative plaque that, built with the sixth grade class. We wanted to.
We've been in an internal discussion of kind of where the line is there, right? But I think it's good for the board to, as Randy said, acknowledge and recognize what the gifts are to the district and on the larger one. So again, we're trying to come up with what larger is, bring it to the board for approval and for public recognition.
Also, live oak trees are quite large, so they can have an impact on the site.
And I will say as a preface, the PTA at Garden Willis is looking at adding some kind of shade structure in the back area as well as part of to the school. They're not there yet. They're looking at that, but they'll be bringing that back in the next summer or fall. They make a decision on something.
Thank you, I appreciate the explanation. I'm very happy that the tree is the gift. I was just wondering why we had to. But thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
So from what's the phrase from a small acorn, mighty oak grows? Very appropriate. I hope we have planned for expansion of the tree, which naturally happens over time.
Yeah, in fact, they pointed that out that it doesn't plenty. Not grow as much to keep it under control.
So I won't, that's shade structures. I won't make a comment about the pergola that was torn down because it did not have board approval. At Garden Willis, beautiful.
Nor state DSA approval.
What's that?
Nor DSA
But
approval.
it didn't need DSA.
So what I'm looking for now is.
I would like
from-
to
from-
take
Okay,
So-
Shall we?
I think I
Got a motion.
think this.
Oh, okay, I thought-
Second, vote on that. Mel,
Yes.
Jessica.
Aye.
I
And I vote yes as well. That's 5-0. Thank you to Garden Willis PTA and sixth grade clubs. Award of contract food service vendor. Mr. Kim.
Yes, finally have in front of you a contract with Revolution Foods for your hopefully approval tonight. Had many updates for me regarding the new Universal Meals Program, and this would consummate our search for a vendor. And I've shared all the I think pertinent details of the previous meeting, this is just the formality of putting the rate in front of you, getting you to approve it, and then we can begin working with Revolution Foods going forward, starting tomorrow.
Thank you. Any comments, questions on the agreement? Don't see any from the crowd here as well. Could I get a motion to approve the?
So,
Thank you.
I'll second.
Seconded by, approved by, or moved by Vladimir, seconded by Shally.
I,
Jessica?
Aye.
Aye. Shally?
Aye.
I vote aye as well, so it passes 5-0. Thank you. Award of contract for the new phone system, Mr. Kenyon.
Yes, I'm pleased to bring forward a proposal from LandLogic. Which would build contract with them for a new phone system from the district. Ours is very old and was built before, breaking down a lot. And, needs replacement, and we have got LandLogic gave a proposal that is around $450,000 in cost, which compares quite favorably to the $600,000 budget that I had set monies aside for the phone system. So LandLogic is very well respected, and they're close by. They're in East Bay, and we're excited to actually be working with them. So looking forward to it for your approval.
Any comments, questions on the contract with LandLogic? Yes.
I noticed in there that there is a provision for a backup power system that is supposed to last for 4 hours. And I was wondering if that was sufficient.
That's probably 2 hours longer than what we've had to date. So it's probably standard.
Since we do have a little bit of room in the budget, maybe consider making that. That's only half of the day, right? So there's,
I'm sure if you would like me to pursue that, we can do that with LandLogic and see what the cost is. I'll talk with our telecommunications consultant, and see what the recommendation might be.
We're looking for approval on the contract. Is that be here trying to lead into this approval, or are you just?
no,
looking for
it's
future
an informal, query, that's all.
So any other comments, questions? So I need a motion to approve the contract from LandLogic.
So moved.
Thank you, Vladimir.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Vladimir and it's a second from Shally.
Yes.
Jessica.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Passes 5-0. Summer facility project, Mr. Kenyon.
Yes, I bring this to you every year in May. This isn't May, this is June. However, we've talked about the major one on here previously.
You need some help.
There it goes.
This is pretty self-evident. So we don't have a lot to talk about. We've talked about the lighting replacement work at 3 sites. Have the cost there, you previously approved that. What is new to you is probably the flooring replacement is a significant issue across the district in a number of rooms. And our maintenance staff wants to get those repaired before they start becoming tripping hazards. So I said we will include that in the summer project work. We have done field renovations almost every year prior to the pandemic. At Block Egan, Santa Rita, the major soccer fields. That work actually is going to be done not in the summer this year, but in the winter. It's on here because we will use the field maintenance for that. I will remind you that there wasn't enough money in the deferred maintenance fund to cover all this, and we are planning to use up to $200,000 of inside minimum income to help pay for the, help defray the cost, particularly of road lighting. I think this is information only for you.
Any comments, questions on the bridge? Great, thank you. All right, thank you. Agreement with Santa Clara County Public Health Department. Mr. King. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry about that. Let's go back to that. Revised board procedures for 2022. Revised board 2022 board procedures. Mr. Chair.
So this is a revision just to the 2022 board procedures. Essentially, it's replacing names of individuals with position titles. It was a good practice, especially when there's moving. So just same tasks, same positions, just stating it that way in the procedure. So look for your consideration of approval.
Questions, comments on this one? A motion to approve the change to the 2022 board procedures.
I'll second.
Moved by Vladimir, second by Shelley. Vladimir,
Aye.
Jessica,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Shelley.
Aye.
I vote yes as well. This is 5-0. Agreement with Santa Clara County Public Health Department. Mr. King.
Yes, as I believe you know, the county public health department is looking for a vaccination site in the north part of the county. Previously housed at the Mountain View Community Center. They just did a couple other places and came to us asking about potential vacancies on the 10th site. We've identified the building that Joanne's Fabrics used to occupy as a potential location for them. They've inspected it, they included it with the federal, the company manager, and they think it will be a good fit. They've also looked at Blue Noodles, where Blue Noodles formerly was smaller building for potentially a COVID testing site, not immediately, but down the road. For more COVID testing sites, particularly for the neighborhood around. This agreement primarily is about Joanne Fabrics. It is a fairly simple agreement, as you know, compared to a lot of legal documents. It's their boilerplate or template that they've used in acquiring different sites for their vaccination clinics. It's been reviewed by our attorneys. Doesn't have all the clauses you would normally see in a very large agreement, but it's for it's an interim situation where they need some space and we have some empty space. So we think as a public service that it would be a good match. We're bringing that to you tonight. They are wanting to start next week, the week of June 20th, because they believe that the vaccines for the under 5-year-old kids will be starting to become available next week. So we're anxious to get in and get started. We'll expect a lot of folks showing up for vaccination. What else can I tell you? I think that kind of summarizes it all. We've been working over the last few weeks rather rapidly to see if we can make this happen for the county. I'd say I'm pleased that we're able to provide this public service opportunity.
I could just say, Steve, thanks to Randy, who jumped on it very quickly. We got an email from Santa Clara County Public Health just a couple of weeks ago to see if there's something we could possibly do. And Randy just jumped on it quite a bit, coordinated with Graystar, who was moving out of Joanne's Fabrics, and just so thanks to Randy.
Any questions or comments?
I will, sorry, there's no date. 16 doesn't mean, if anybody might have noticed, they call this Los Altos Unified School District. We will fix that.
I do in one. County High School.
I was a little surprised not to see any duration or notice for
Like it's pretty open.
stopping and so I mean I assume
I
there
think there's a termination clause in here, as I recall.
was there.
Can I ask one thing? Because I-
Oh. Oh, you're right. Sorry, 30 days written notice. Never mind. I just didn't see that part of it.
So, Matt Savage reached out and asked me if I had any questions, and I said I was gonna ask an open session. Like when the end date of this is, because it said dates of usage. And now back saying the county anticipates the need for a site in North County extending into 2023. We will continue to assess the need as the pandemic evolves. That's what it said.
Any questions or further clarification? And this is an action item, so I will need a motion to approve it. So moved.
Second.
By Vladimir, or moved by Vladimir, seconded by Shelley.
Aye.
Jessica?
Aye.
Aye.
I vote yes as well. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Employment agreement, consulting work performed by Randall A. Kenyon. Mr. Barron.
Yes, so as you know, the board is interested in continuing with Randy's services in some particular areas. As you know, as beyond his retirement, which is on June 30th. So this is a consulting agreement that will allow him to do that and to engage in that service. I don't know if you want to say anything about the work we've been doing with attorneys on it, Randy, or if that's important.
Yeah, no, I've been working closely with our attorneys on how this might work. Normally, when you retire in the service system, probably the service system as well, there's a 180-day wait period before you can do any work. And I've had your pension jeopardized. There are a couple of exceptions in the first system. One is interim position, interim CBO, if we do not have somebody. Secondly, would be this case where there is either an emergency or a special project or whatever that needs special help, and the board will need to make a call on the agreement. The county, as you know, from the write-up, the county board has to pass a resolution, adopt a resolution that states that in this case, I could perform the service as a retired employee. And this is the relationship I have with the folks. A natural need, a natural fit. Happy if you don't want to approve it, to write off this sunset.
Any comments or questions? Not seeing it, I need a motion to approve the employment agreement with Randall A. Kenyon.
So moved.
Second.
By Vladimir, second by Shelley.
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
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 Shelley? I vote yes as well. Passes 5-0. Resolution 21/2216, order of election specifications of election order consolidation of requests.
So these next three agenda items are coming as a result of the discussion the board had last week. The first two are around the election being called and the filing support that could be offered by the board for candidates. And then the third one is about remuneration for board members. I think 17 and 18 are intertwined. So the thought here is you would take action the board would take action, consider taking action to approve one of them. And one of them, you're probably just going to choose to not take any action. It will just go away, right? Sale by, that's a 17 and 19. And then 19 is separate. So the first resolution, 21/2216, is the same resolution you saw last week. It is the one that is the status quo where candidates for seats on the board would bear their own costs. Item number 18 on the agenda, resolution 21/22-18, is a resolution that would call for the district paying up to half of that cost, or half of that cost of filing for candidates. I will let you discuss. I'd like to share my thoughts and recommendations at this point. This is a consideration that I think is important. I understand that we have some neighboring districts doing different things. I just think it deserves a bit more conversation because there are some other ideas out there and models being used other than just paying 50% of the cost. And we would also have to bring a board policy 9220. Yeah, that's right. 9220 forward, because that one does currently call out that the candidates bear the cost. So we would have to do a change in that policy as well. This seems like something, if the board wants to have a more robust discussion on it, it would probably make sense to do that perhaps in the spring and look toward the next election. So you can have that discussion, understand the full implications, and then put that into place for the election in 2020. But I will leave that to you. So Steve, I'll hand it over to you.
Great. Any comments, discussion? Brian?
Yeah, so I'll make this, since I was the instigator of this. One of the issues here was there was sort of a miscommunication as a result of a technical problem. So board policy 9220 actually doesn't show up in Gavin online currently, which is why I was under the impression that we had not adopted it at any point in the past. And so I had thought that this resolution was the only place where the cost sharing was laid out. Understanding now that we do have a board policy that we would need to update, I think I'm persuaded that probably the best thing to do, especially since we have 3 candidates, we don't know who else might be affected, appearances, that it might be better to put this off into the fall or January sometime, a low otherwise traffic meeting where we can have a more cohesive proposal. I would like to see that proposal within the next 6 months, but I think at this point, I'm probably thinking that we should probably approve 16 and then let 18. On.
Any comments?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and
We'll jump right into it.
move that we approve resolution 21/22-16 order of election.
Sorry. So moved by Brian, seconded by Vladimir. You want to do the vote?
Aye.
Jessica?
Aye.
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
I'm voting yes as well. That's just 5-0. So we still have 21/22-18 on the agenda. Would anyone like to provide any comments or put a motion in play to? No action on either of those. I think we'll drop that from our discussion and move on to number 19.
Right,
Policy update.
this is a board policy update. This was also requested by the board to look at the board remuneration. The board remuneration was reduced back in 2011 or 12 or 10. Maybe it was the fall of 10 when I first started. As a result of the recession we were in, the Great Recession, and it has not been revisited. The recommendation or the suggestion was we bring it forward as it's laid out in education code. So that's what we have in front of you. So this would address both the amount as well as the maximum by which it could be increased.
Which I think would require action by the board on an annual basis. Yes, such an increase, which obviously would be an annual decision.
Comments, questions, clarifications? Yes.
So this, I will just say that this I brought as an action. We usually do 2 reads. Right? Board always has the decision-making ability to approve it in a single read. But so it's either approve it tonight or it's bring it back as consent on August 6th.
2 discussion topics here. One, the action and then when how to approve it. Any comments on this one? Like having sat here during a recession, I have a hard time saying, yeah, we should be here, to be honest with you, it makes me feel uncomfortable when I was laying people off. And asked them to walk away till the committee. I understand why it came up. Do you understand that? But I would, what I read didn't have any flexibility to it, in terms of walking away from it, or reconsidering, or even for me to say, I don't want it. It's not woven into that.
No, actually, that's not true. That is part of what I read in the CLR. Really.
Just quick-
No, I
be honest.
understood it to be flexible as well. You don't have to accept it.
Yeah, you can choose not to take it.
From each individual board.
Yeah.
I didn't read that.
I missed that part.
Oh, well, sorry, other than saying Steve was wrong.
That's a normal comment.
I mean, I was the one who proposed this. I mean, I do sort of feel a little strongly that we do provide value and that both that we sort of be compensated for our time, but more that people who can't afford to give their time away for free should be able to serve these positions. And I think we are in this. This is another case where, unlike the previous one where there's sort of a mix of practices across the districts, this is really one where we are the sole exception of basically all districts. So,
Approving this policy speaks more towards equity, at least for me. For the same reason that Brian said, the candidate statement one is like a one-time thing, but this is like ongoing. And I know we put in a lot of work outside of the 2 monthly meetings that we go to. We represent our school district up and down the state, really pretty much. But there's a lot of work that we do beyond the 10 meetings.
No. Okay. I didn't ask for a motion.
No, not yet. Jessica, do you have any comments, anything you want to add?
I think I echo Shally. We do a lot of work. It's better that we are at least brought up to speed with the rest of the districts in the state, quite simply. So I would support this.
I guess my question now is, do we approve it or do we want to approve it in August?
I don't think doing it now. It wouldn't take it back till the next school year anyway.
Right.
So do I have a motion to approve it?
Like, would we approve change to board bylaw 9250 reimbursement for other benefits? Because this will make the most money I've earned in the last 10 years.
Yeah, there we go.
I'll second it.
Moved by Shally, second, or moved by Vladimir, second by Shally. And vote.
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
right?
yes.
Shally,
Yes.
I'm going to abstain on this one, so it passes 4-0. Resolution 2122-19, declaration of need for fully qualified educators.
So this resolution is one that the board approves each year at this time, just before we head off into summer recess, allowing us, should we need to, hire someone on an emergency permit if a qualified credentialed individual is unavailable. We haven't had to do this in the 12 years that I've been doing this, but it's important to have it out there should that need arise.
Any comments, questions? Get a motion to approve resolution 21-22-20, declaration for need.
19.
Maybe not. It says on 20.
Yeah, it's
19.
20. 19.
Okay, 19.
So we're,
Declaration of thank you.
And-
Second.
I'm sorry, can I ask, already looking at it, can we make sure the resolution number on the?
Yeah, no, the resolution on the document, there's just the resolution, his commentary that was typed up.
Okay.
19. Thank you. 19. So I got a moved by Vladimir, seconded by Shally.
I,
Jessica?
Aye.
Aye.
I vote aye as well, passes 5-0. Board administrative comments. we'll encourage you to make them long, because it's early for Jessica still.
Well, I
Let just,
I just have one, as Kate mentioned, our ESY and Summer Academy program started today. I'll be reaching out to you all if you want to arrange a site visit. It's always fun to go visit the action that's happening over at Canada today. Lots of happy kids today.
Slide 15 items.
Yeah, go for it. Very, very slowly but slide.
My last board meeting, that's my announcement for tonight.
Okay. Jeff, anything else for that?
Same as Randy. It's been an incredible time, certainly as superintendent of the district. And a big part of that is you all. I told Sandra, as she's assuming this role, that one of the most important things a district can have really is that steady stability of board members and governance team, because it absolutely trickles down into the classrooms, and the teachers can absolutely feel it when the district is not governed well. And I just want to let you know that it's been fantastic working with all of you and those that came before you, that were just crazy enough to hire me. But I enjoyed. I know it's. I get the. I think I've said it before. I get the comment from teachers typically, like, that's just a crazy job and I don't know how you possibly do it. It is, and I like wildly complicated puzzles, and it is one of those. But it's all being done for the best reason, the most noble reason out there, and that's the kids working. So just want to say thanks, and I'm sure I'll see you around town.
I attended the Garden Post promotion. That was great. And I said goodbye to Dr. Smolkoff. Off to do great things. And of course, I went to the two graduation ceremonies at Eden and Locke. And I've also enjoyed working with you, Jeff. It's been, when I first heard that you were leaving, I don't know what I'm going to do, because you're the only superintendent I know. It's going to be a shock. Even though I know Sandra, I totally expect her to do even better.
You too.
And by the way, I conducted a little experiment here tonight. Since I was the first to vote, sometimes I said yes, and sometimes I said aye. And if I said aye, people followed, except for you. And if I said yes, then everybody followed with yes as well. It was interesting.
You are a social experiment.
As usual.
Except for the last
Did you
one.
file the necessary ethics paper?
Except for the last vote, which was an aye, and then Steve changed it and said aye, and said yes.
Jessica, do you have anything you would like to discuss? Bring up?
I did, attended the graduations, and I just want to echo what Vladimir said. It's been great working with both Jeff and Randy. Going to be sad to not have you guys in the room. Excited to have Sandra, but as friends, I'm sad to not have you with us every other week during the school year. So thank you so much for your service, both of you.
Yeah, echo all that. And Aaron feels a little anticlimactic. We did the recognition last week.
Went to the challenge team meeting last Thursday. It was all about mental poisoning, and it scared the what out of me. The county office of ed had a candidate training panel about the nuts and bolts of running a campaign, which brings me to lovely gentlemen. I want to thank you for taking a chance on this almond bomb who wanted to serve the district, didn't know how to serve the district. But everything I know about running a campaign really is because you all asked me to co-chair with Jessica, Measure N and Measure GG. The amazing people that you both attract to work with the district is amazing. And Randy, especially for CACF. Again, his alma mater, was like, okay, Randy thinks I can be on this committee. Who am I to question Randy? And I say that all the time when you tell us about the budget and your recommendations. So thank you both. As your colleagues, of course, I'm sad to see you go. As your friend, I'm super excited for you both. And I'm super excited for Sandra and the team that she's built. And I hope you will come and sit in the audience and make public comment.
Oh, yeah. Especially on the 20-item agenda.
So I definitely like to echo the comments that everyone else has raised. I know my history years probably lasts a little longer than everybody else at the table. Starting at PTA, where I went and bugged Randy about why I'm gonna be in charge for toilet paper. PTA president, it was our first time we met. And sitting in the meetings with Jeff with the PTA groups and learning from you, as well as working with you. This has been very helpful. We'll miss the guides. I'm sure Sandra will provide it, but it's been fun to do this. So thank you all.
And I will say that you all did a fantastic pick because Sandra's going to be spectacular.
Thank you. Yeah. I think we're
Have
gonna
the
be,
team.
I think we're gonna adjourn this evening. I made it, but before now.